The training arena fell silent as Lieutenant Rebecca Martinez stepped onto the combat platform, her ancestral cavalry saber gleaming under the harsh artificial lights of the Galactic Combat Academy. The blade had been in her family for 6 generations, carried by her great-great-grandfather during Earth's ancient wars, long before humanity discovered they weren't alone in the universe. Instructor Velkoth, a towering Kryn warrior with 4 arms and scales that shimmered like oil on water, activated his plasma blade. The weapon hummed to life, casting an eerie blue glow across his reptilian features. Around the arena, cadets from a dozen different species watched with barely concealed amusement. The human with her primitive steel weapon had become something of a running joke at the academy. Lieutenant Martinez, Velkoth's translator, rendered his hissing speech into flat, emotionless English. "I must question your choice of weapon for this advanced combat certification. You understand that plasma weaponry operates at temperatures exceeding 15,000 degrees. Your steel will simply evaporate." Rebecca adjusted her grip on the saber's worn leather handle, feeling the familiar weight, the perfect balance. "I'm aware, sir." Velkoth's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Then this will be a very short examination. The Galactic Defense Force has standards for a reason. We cannot have soldiers relying on museum pieces when facing real threats. Permission to prove otherwise, sir." The instructor's eyes narrowed. In his 70 years of teaching combat to every species in the Alliance, he'd never encountered such stubborn irrationality. Humans were known for their adaptability, their quick learning, their surprising endurance. But this? This was foolishness. "Very well. Begin when ready." Rebecca didn't waste time with formal stances. She'd learned years ago that aliens expected humans to follow their elaborate combat protocols, the ritualistic positioning and ceremonial preparations that preceded proper duels in Kryn culture. Instead, she moved. Her first strike came low and fast, forcing Velkoth to drop his plasma blade to intercept. The weapons met with a sound that shouldn't have been possible. Instead of the expected hiss of vaporizing metal, there was a sharp ring, like a bell being struck. The instructor's 4 eyes widened in shock. Rebecca didn't give him time to analyze. She was already pivoting, her saber dancing in patterns her great-great-grandfather had learned from ancient masters, combined with techniques she'd adapted from zero-gravity combat and extraterrestrial martial arts. Each time the plasma blade came close to her steel, she angled, redirected, never meeting it head-on but always just barely deflecting its path. "Impossible," Velkoth hissed, recovering from his surprise. He pressed his attack, all 4 arms working in concert, his plasma blade moving in patterns designed to overwhelm any opponent. But Rebecca was already somewhere else, her smaller size and lower center of gravity allowing her to duck under strikes that would have bisected a Kryn warrior. The watching cadets had gone silent now. A Threll cadet, insectoid and analytical, was recording every movement with 3 different visual spectrum cameras. This wasn't following any known combat doctrine. Velkoth made his mistake when he overcommit to a downward strike, certain that the human would finally have to block directly or be cut in half. Rebecca did neither. She stepped forward, inside his guard, her saber flashing up in a move that would have been called a rising cut in ancient earth fencing manuals. The steel blade caught the plasma weapon at its hilt, at the magnetic containment field generator. For a fraction of a second, the 2 weapons pressed against each other, and then Rebecca twisted her wrist in a complex motion, leveraging the plasma blade's own momentum against it. The plasma weapon flew from Velkoth's primary hand, deactivating as its safety protocols engaged. Before it hit the ground, Rebecca's saber was at the instructor's throat. The arena erupted in shocked silence. Velkoth's mandibles hung open. "How?" Rebecca lowered her blade, stepping back respectfully. "You were right, sir. I can't block plasma with steel. Not directly. But I don't have to. Every weapon has weaknesses. Plasma blades are contained by magnetic fields, fields that have generators, power sources, vulnerable points. My ancestors learned to fight enemies with superior range, superior firepower, superior technology. They learned that you don't meet strength with strength. You meet it with precision. She sheathed her saber with a practiced motion. Also, you telegraph your strikes before committing. The way your shoulder scales flex, the positioning of your secondary arms, you have tells, sir. Humans have been reading body language and exploiting patterns since we were hunting with sharpened sticks. Velkoth recovered his plasma blade, studying the human with newfound respect. Around the arena, the murmuring of cadets rose to a crescendo. He'd been teaching advanced combat for 70 years. He'd never been disarmed. Never. Your assessment of my technique, he asked. You're an excellent instructor, sir. But you've been teaching the same students the same techniques for decades. You've forgotten what it's like to fight someone who doesn't know the rules, who doesn't care about proper form, who will use anything, physics, psychology, environmental factors, to win. The instructor's mandibles clicked again, but this time there was genuine amusement in the sound. Pass. With honors. Though I must ask, if your primitive steel blade broke during combat, what would you do? Rebecca grinned, the expression showing teeth in a very human way. Use the broken pieces as projectiles, find a rock, improvise. We're humans, sir. We're really, really good at improvising. As she left the arena, she could hear Velkoth addressing the stunned cadets, let this be a lesson. Superior technology means nothing without superior tactics. The humans didn't become a spacefaring species by being the strongest or the fastest. They did it by being the most adaptable, the most creative, the most stubborn. Remember that. Lieutenant Rebecca Martinez smiled to herself, her great-great-grandfather's saber hanging comfortably at her side. Humanity hadn't clawed its way up from primitive savagery by playing fair or following the rules. They'd done it by making their own rules, by turning every disadvantage into an advantage, by never, ever giving up. The galaxy was still learning what that meant.